formed a pretty tight nip. Hello? What am I talking about? Hi guys, and welcome back to another episode of Lipstick and Lore. Roll the intro. Today I'm going to be your host in the spooky, strange, unsolved, conspiratorial, and historical stories that plague my mind, and now have to plague yours. Today's case is that of the Skylar Neese case, which if you've been in the true crime scene for a little while, you've probably heard of. It's been told a time or two, but I got requested it by this lovely person right here. So I figured I would go ahead and cover it today because this is one that I am personally interested in, and also I think it is one that hasn't been too overplayed. If you do have a request, you can either DM me on one of my other social media platforms, or you can leave it in the comments down below, and I will get to it. But if it's one that's like overplayed, like Ted Bundy or Geoffrey Dahmer or something like that, I probably won't do it. But if it's a sort of lesser known one, and if it's an unsolved one, I probably will do it. So if you do have any that you would like to request, please leave them in the comments down below. And without further ado, let's get into today's case. Also, just want to put this little tidbit in here. I hit 100 subscribers. 100, technically 104, but 100. Guys, what am I gonna, there's 100 of you. What am I gonna do? Should I throw a party? Should I get a cupcake? I don't know, let me know. What should I do for 100 subscribers? Because I feel like I have to do something. That's a lot of people. That's a lot of people. 100? I'm sorry, I never thought I'd get to 100. But here we are. 100? My flabbers are gasted. What should I do? Let me know. Let me know down below. Let me know what should I do for 100 subscribers. Okay? Let me know. And handing it back over to non-voiceover me. Glasses. I know, y'all don't see them much, but they're here. I am blind. But before we get into today's video today, I want to show you some cool stuff that I got. And it is makeup. And I want to preface this by saying I am not sponsored or affiliated in any way with this lovely woman. But I went to the Oddities and Curiosities Expo in Novi, Michigan, and decided to pick up some of this gorgeous makeup, by some I mean a lot, from Lunatic Cosmetics. So here are her stickers that I got. This one says Die Pretty. I also got a hoodie and a hat that says Die Pretty. And then here's this one, Where Brains Meet Beauty. And if you guys want to go ahead and check her out, her Instagram is Lunatic Cosmetics, as well as The Beauty Mortician on TikTok and Instagram. So go ahead and look those up. But let me show you some of this sick makeup. I got a lot of her blind bags. And let me tell you a quick story. I'm a yapper. If you don't want to hear, skip ahead. But I got one of the blind bags, and it was exactly the same as the one that I had already gotten. So I went back and asked. And a lot of the times, vendors won't do this, and I totally understand. Like, I'm not bashing vendors for not giving... It's a blind bag. You have the chance of getting the exact same things. So I went back and I said, hey, like, I just got this one. Can I possibly have a different one? And she's like, I can make you a different one. And I was like, sure. So she's like, all right, turn around. And she made me a whole new goodie bag. Sweetest woman you've ever met. It's so sweet. Oh my gosh. I believe her name is Kat. I think that's what her name is. And I will put her Instagram and her TikTok up here because she's amazing. First things first, a whole new set of brushes, which, let me show you my brushes. Your girl, they're dirty. They're very dirty. It's extremely dirty. I will say. I also got a makeup cloth that's shaped like a coffin. A bunch of her palettes, which I've already dove into. This one is really cool. Look at this. Hold on. It's got a little pop-up. I love it. It's a heart. a whole human heart. God. This packaging is so sick. I'm not even kidding you. Ouija board palettes. And a brain. This is white base, which I love. I've already tried it out. And then 2 of her like liquid non-matte lipsticks in the shades Graveheart and Paranormal. And then I got 3 of these in the shades Widowmaker, Dirt Nap, and Feral Human. And then I have a second one of these, but it is currently out in one of my purses because I used it. But these are her bullet lipsticks. And this is in the shade Buried Youth. And the other one I have is Steelheart, and it's like a dark blue color, and it's really freaking pretty. And then, last but not least, an urn. Ladies and gentlemen, I have an urn. And what's in the urn? Blush. So she keeps all her setting powders in urns. So you can get, check out our website. She's got so many shades. But I picked the blush one because I'm a blush fanatic. Well, actually, I didn't pick it, but she picked it out for me. But I love it because I'm a blush fanatic. Once again, not sponsored, but you guys should definitely go check her out. Lunatic Cosmetics, the beauty mortician. She's the sweetest lady ever, and she runs a small business, and I love supporting small woman-owned businesses who make cool makeup. Anyway, on to the case. So today's case is that of Skylar Neese, which this one was requested to me by a commenter, and I will leave them right here. Or, yeah, right here. Right here. And this is a case that I actually have heard of. Oh, hold on. There we go. Whew. And it's one that I definitely watched some YouTube videos about back in the day. As if I'm ancient. I mean, I feel ancient, but that's besides the point. It definitely early on my true crime journey, I'd say. And it is one that mildly terrifies me, not because it's like super graphic or super like creepy or anything like that. It's more or less just how well, you'll see. I'll explain it when I get there, because it's hard to explain without knowing the case. So if you don't know the case, then you're not going to understand. But if you do know the case, you probably understand what I'm talking about. So, Skylar was born February 10th, 1996, and her full name is Skylar Annette Neese, which is such a pretty name, in my opinion. That is positively gorgeous. And also, I don't know, and I just like the name Annette, I think. Annette is such a great name. Also, Skylar is also equally a good name, and I think, like, that would be, like, if I ever became, like, a famous writer or a famous journalist, that'd be, like, my writer name, like, Skylar. I think that would be sick. But Skylar was 16 years of age, and she lived in a small town in West Virginia. She lived a pretty normal life, I'd say. Nothing too of note there. Now, Skylar was an only child, like yours truly. And I feel like only children get a lot of flack for like not being able to share or being like stuck up, and I don't know. I feel like I'm not, but I guess maybe I just wouldn't know because I don't deal with me. But I don't feel like I'm stuck up. I try to understand everybody's perspective. I really do. But she was an only child to Dave and Mary Neese, which I don't know are such, like, those are such suburban family names, in my opinion. Those are very, like, those are the names, like, you think you're telling a story and you want to, like, keep anonymity or whatever, and you're like, Dave and Mary. Those were their names, but that's actually their names. And their last name was obviously Neese. And they had a pretty normal, like, they were pretty normal parents. Sorry, here. Dave worked as a product assembler for Walmart, and Mary was an administrative assistant for a cardiac laboratory, which sounds fancy. I don't know anything about that. I didn't look it up. Don't ask me. Do your own research. I don't know what that means. Now, Skylar was an honor student at University High School, which, that's confusing, University High School, but I don't know why I'm so low. I don't know why that is. I'm sorry, guys. My chair doesn't go any higher. So she was an honors student in high school, and people said that she was very friendly, very sociable, but she was sort of a goody two-shoes, which there's nothing wrong with that. I, too, am a goody two-shoes. But overall, people said that she was nice to be around, that she was nice to talk to, and that she wasn't remarkable in any way, but she also wasn't, like, bad in any way. She was a pretty much straight A student, which is, better than I did, so props to her. She was in her sophomore year of high school, and she had dreams of becoming a defense attorney, a criminal defense attorney, which I don't know if I could be, because, like, I don't know. Like, I don't know if I could sit up there and know that, like, what if I know they're guilty? I have to sit up there and defend them? I feel like that would eat at my conscience. And during the evening, she worked at her local Wendy's, which, if you don't know what Wendy's is, which I'm assuming most of you do, but if you don't, Wendy's is like a fast food chain. They sell burgers and chicken nuggets and all the usual stuff. But she was also said to have a pretty good group of friends, which is good. That's a good thing to have in high school. I had a pretty good group of friends, I'd say. I got a little rocky, but, found them, which is always good. And this friend group consisted of 3 girls, which, I don't know. In a trio, I feel like there's always a duo in the trio, and it never ends well. There's always a falling out, and the 2 run off into the sunset together, and then someone's left behind. I say that as someone who has been both part of the duo and not part of the duo. And both ends, not great. But Skylar grew up in Morgantown, West Virginia, and she was pretty typical. Her group of friends consisted of Sheila Eddy, who was her best friend, and Rachel Schoaf, which I struggle saying that girl's name so badly. Rachel Schoaf. I don't know why, but I want to call her Rachel Loaf. It's not her name, it's just what I want to call her. Now, the girls were oftentimes seen driving around together at night, hanging out at school, going to the mall, doing a little shopping, and overall were said to have seemed to be the bestest of friends, which we love. We love. So, Skylar's best friend was Sheila Eddy, because they had known each other since they were 8, which is a very long time. Do I even still know someone from when I was 8? Yeah, I do, actually. I was gonna say, am I even still friends with anybody? I am. Shout out to them. But they had been friends since they were 8 years old. They had met at like a community, like summer camp kind of thing, and really hit it off. And from that moment on, were said to have been pretty much inseparable. And they spent pretty much all their time together. Skylar's parents said that they were pretty much joined at the hip, that they were the dynamic duo, and that no one could seemingly come between them. So Sheila Ray Eddy, as her full name, was born September 28th, 1995, and she had a little bit of a rocky home life. She was not with father, and her mother was said to be a little dicey. She was born in Blacksville, West Virginia, to, I'm going to butcher this name, Tara, to all my Taras out there, I'm sorry, Clendenin, and Greg Eddy. Greg Eddy I can get real good, but yeah, Tara, I don't know. I'm sorry, Tara. I'm sorry. But she did have a father, and he was around for a little bit until he suffered a traumatic brain injury, and Tara left him. So much for in sickness and in health, right? Those vows apparently meant nothing. And she divorced him. Like, they didn't just break up. She completely divorced him. And after that, her mother remarried shortly after in 2010. So 10 years after the divorce. So not shortly after, but like kind of shortly after the divorce. Because I think she got with this guy like right after, which is crazy. But what do I know? What do I know? So Rachel Elizabeth Schoaf. That's our second player here. Now, Rachel, I couldn't find too much on, but she was born June 10th, 1996, and she was raised in Morgantown, West Virginia, and she is the daughter of Rusty and Patricia Schoaf, which I love those names. Rusty and Patricia? Heck yeah, that's great names right there. That's not relevant to the story, but that's great. And she attended a private Catholic school until high school, and that's when she joined the university high school, and that's where she met her two new besties. And they formed a tight-knit little group and pretty much became the trio. And it was good for a while until it wasn't good. And then issues began to arise, which led to a series of not so lighthearted tweets on Twitter, which I'm not even going to call it by its other name because I will never call it by its other name. But this did lead to, from both girls, from both Sheila and Skylar, there was some unsavory tweets being put out there, which, I don't know, I'm not a Twitter user, and I really never have been. So, I'm assuming, like, you get notified when the other person tweets. I'm gonna assume, going on a limb here. And they were sort of, like, going back, not really going back and forth, but, like, you know how teenage girls are, and I can say that because I'm a teenage girl. We're a little passive, we're a lot passive-aggressive. It's what we're best at. And they were kind of passively aggressive tweeting about each other. So I'm going to read you a couple of those tweets. Okay, so here's some of Sheila's tweets before Skylar went missing. I hate when people blame their own actions and choices on others. Deal with it. And then another one, hold please. She posted a lot of pictures of her, Skylar, and Rachel. And then she said, why is my favorite question? And then she said, I will never give a single fuck about you ever again. And then she said, damn, I just wish people would realize. And then another one, if you only knew, you'd shit right down your leg. And then another one, worst day of my whole life. And then another one, ain't no rest for the wicked. And then another one, I love when people look at me like I'm fucking crazy, because I am. Then she posted another picture of her and Skylar, actually a couple more. And then she says, I hate seeing and hearing things that remind me of you, because you're the last person I want to be reminded of. I've closed enough windows to know you can never look back. Like, best friends aren't cunts to each other. Duh, people. You suck so bad. Insanely bad. And then she posted some more pictures, some random regular tweets. And then she posted a happy birthday to Skylar. More pictures, more pictures. And then she said, it's so weird how people fight with their best friends. Like, I never fight with mine. And then she said, she posted another picture of all three of them. And then we are up to April. And she said, we really did go on 3. So then this is Skylar's tweets. And she posted, you are just as bad as the bitches you complain about. A good vent session is always nice. And this is in June. So, like a month before she went missing. And then she said, you're a two-faced bitch and obviously fucking stupid if you thought I wouldn't find out. And then she said, there's just something about you I can't fucking stand. Then some pictures. And then she posted, just know, I know. Then she posted some more pictures. More pictures. And then she said, 3 of my best friends are going out of town this weekend, leaving me alone with no plans. FML. And then she said, it really doesn't take much to piss me off. People can be so mean for absolutely no reason. Sick of being fucking at home. Thanks, friends. Love hanging out with you all too. Stress will be the death of me. You doing shit like this is why I will never completely trust you. And that was posted July 6th, 2012, which is the last tweet that she ever posted. So on the night of July 5th, 2012, Skylar came home from a shift at Wendy's pretty late. She worked nights, so, not super late, obviously, but sort of late. And she told her parents that she was tired and that she was going to bed. She said, I'm tired, I'm tapped out, I'm done, worked a long day, I'm going to bed. Cool. Love that for her. Would also love to go to bed, but I have videos to film. And the following morning, Dave goes to, check on her. That's her dad, by the way, in case you forgot. And he finds her door locked, which was unusual because Skylar didn't really ever lock her door. So he was kind of like, I don't know what's going on there. So he knocked a couple of times and didn't get any answers. So he thought that maybe she was, still sleeping, or maybe she had, fallen or something. So he went and grabbed a tool, I'm assuming a screwdriver or something, and took the door off its hinges. He forced the door open. I'm assuming he took the door off its hinges. I'm assuming he didn't just Hulk smash through the freaking door, but maybe he did. I don't know. I don't know Dave. And when Dave was interviewed, he said, quote, the first thing I noticed is that the bed hadn't been slept in, end quote. So it was presumed that Miss Skylar did in fact not sleep in her bed, and that she was MIA, missing in action. So at first, obviously that causes a bit of panic. Where's my daughter? And then they thought, she's probably out with friends, shopping, doing whatever. And I don't know, I don't sneak out of the house, guys, can you tell? But the worry kind of faded. They thought, she's probably okay. So they call up Sheila. They thought, if she's with anybody, she's with Sheila. Called up Sheila. Sheila said, no, she's not with me. Haven't seen her. They said, oh, well, maybe she's out with some of her other friends, you know? Because they knew that her and Sheila had kind of been fighting and posting passive-aggressive tweets towards each other. So they kind of figured maybe she was out with some of her friends and figured she'd be back before her shift at Wendy's that evening. Well, 4 o'clock rolls around and the Neese family landline goes off. Bring, 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 bring. Hello? Yeah. Oh, okay. And what do they say on the phone? Who's on the other end? Wendy's. What does the Wendy's manager say? I'm assuming it's the manager, I don't know. But they say, we were wondering when Skylar was coming in because she's not here. Is she running a little late? Immediately her parents are like, what do you mean she's not there? We figured she'd be there. Manager's like, nope, she hasn't shown up and she hasn't called out either, so we figured maybe she was just running a little late. Parents immediately on high alert now. So they do the only logical thing and call the police. So, Officer Jessica Colbank gets assigned to the case. She was a officer of the city police department, and she immediately interviewed the parents, because obviously these are the last people that they know saw Skylar, because she came home and she said, I'm tired, I'm going to bed. So obviously that's the first natural step. They interview them. They want to know about Skylar's last movements, because that is the most important part of finding someone, is sort of retracing. You know, when you lose something, you retrace your steps. That's what they do when a person is missing. They retrace that person's steps to kind of figure out, what happened, where they could be, what's going on, what's the rundown. So shortly after the disappearance, Sheila Eddy arrived at the Neese home, absolutely devastated. Completely devastated, all sorts of just torn up. So she goes to Skylar's mother and she's like, I have something to tell you. Which, okay, yeah, go. Tell me what you gotta say. Tell me what you gotta say, sister. So Sheila tells them that her and Rachel actually picked Skylar up that night. Okay, perfect. Boom, we have a lead, people. But of course, it's never that easy, so. But they picked her up late that evening, and the three of them had gone for a drive, and they dropped Skylar off around roughly midnight is when they dropped her back at her house. So, immediately, the Neese review the footage of the security camera outside their home. They're like, perfect. We'll see her being picked up, we'll see her being dropped off, and then we can at least confirm that. And that maybe, like when she was dropped off, like maybe someone grabbed her or she walked away or something, and they will catch that on camera. So, they check the cameras, and the video didn't show the girls dropping Skylar off or picking her up at the times that Sheila had said. So, little suspicious. At midnight, no one's being picked up, no one's being dropped off. Earlier in the night, no one's being picked up, no one's being dropped off. So, needless to say, suspicious. What they did see, however, was... Hold, please. There we go. What they did see, however, was them, picking her up at the time that they had said that they had dropped her off. Not the exact time, 12:30 is when they saw a car pull up. A light sedan is what they called it. pull up to pick Skylar up, which was closer to the time that they said they had dropped her off. So, weird. Very weird. Suspicious. Police said that they reviewed this footage, trying to gather a timeline of events, but it was obviously going to take time because those things take time. So they were trying to figure out if maybe the footage was time-stamped wrong, or or if it just didn't pick up them dropping her back off. They were trying to figure out what was going on, and they didn't really have a lot of answers. But obviously, while they're doing this, they're not just gonna sit around twiddling their thumbs. They're going to launch a search, because obviously she's missing. So, at this point, she's a missing person. So they have to launch a search. They do sort of think that maybe she's a runaway, but still, she's only 16 or 15. 16, I believe. Yeah, 16. And she needs to be found. She needs to be brought home. She shouldn't be out on her own. So in the days after Skylar's disappearance, friends, family, classmates all mobilized together in a search for Skylar. They wanted this girl found because everyone who knew her said that she was fairly nice and a good person to be around, and really just a sweet human who, I mean, everyone deserves to be found, obviously, but the community really wanted to search for Skylar because anyone who knew her just absolutely loved her. So the case quickly spread, and photos were distributed to local businesses, and missing persons flyers were hung up pretty much everywhere, basically saying like, oh, have you seen her? If so, call the police department and give a tip. The case spread through the town and into the local school, and this is where rumors spread, because teenagers, we love a rumor. We love a rumor. Trust me, we do. And people were speculating. A lot of people thought she was a runaway, that she had run away and become involved with some guy, or ran away and joined, I don't know, some sort of cult. Some people believed that maybe she had run away to go to a party and got involved in an altercation and something happened that way. There was a lot of speculation going on about what could have happened to Miss Skylar. Following this, the FBI decided to join in the search for Miss Skylar, and this was a huge step, especially for a smaller town in West Virginia, especially for a case where no body had been found yet, and seemingly only one person was missing. This was a huge deal, especially for a case like this. But the FBI did get involved, and they sent Special Agent Morgan, I'm going to butcher your last name, Spurlock? I'm going to hope that's right. I'm going to say Spurlock. I said it with confidence, therefore it has to be right. And he said that the Bureau became involved after receiving requests of assistance from local law enforcement. So the local law enforcement was like, this is above our pay grade. We need the big guns. So FBI jumps in, and by July 12th, 2012, the media coverage had dispersed so far and wide that tips were coming in left, right, and center. One lead, or report, I should say, it's not really a lead. One report was that Skylar had been seen at a beach in North Carolina alongside two girls, one with red hair, a description that matched Rachel Schoaf, and investigators contacted the church camp where Rachel had been staying, but the lead was ultimately incorrect because her alibi was proven. So it wasn't Rachel who had been seen with her on the beach, and the lead was quickly proven to be pretty much false, which is disheartening, obviously, because when your child is missing, of course you want every single lead to be the right one that's gonna find her. But it was good that leads were coming in and that they were keeping the case alive, because that's the biggest thing with cases like this, that a person is missing, is you want to keep the coverage on the case and you want to keep the case alive, because the more you keep the case alive, the better chances that that person or persons are going to be found. So with most of the tips and leads going cold, investigators were sort of getting frustrated and started going back to square one and looking at those closest to Skylar, which is a good tactic because oftentimes it is the person closest to us that is the monster. So they start looking at everybody's statements. You know, they're looking at Dad's statement. They're looking at Mom's statement. They're looking at, you know, the Wendy's people's statements. They're looking at her best friend's statements. And they find some inconsistencies in Sheila's story, obviously, because the cameras don't match your timeline, sister. What's that about? So they're like, maybe we need to take a better look at this girl. You know, maybe we need to really hone in on her. And Miss Rachel over here now. Rachel came back from church camp and returned to Morgantown. And she was interviewed by investigators. They were like, "What's your story, sister? You know, what's just saying? What's just saying?" And her events loosely, I say loosely, resembled what Sheila had said, and that was that the girls had driven around, smoked marijuana, and eventually dropped Skylar off near her home because obviously she didn't want to be seen by her parents or whatever, sneaking back in. So they dropped her off a little bit away from her house. And that was the story. And investigators start to dissect it a little bit more. So as they're dissecting the two girls' stories, they come across something that is a little bit suspicious. And that is that the girls had told them different directions. So on the main road, like the main intersection in the town, the one girl had said that they had turned left, while the other girl said that they had turned right. And it being a main intersection, police thought that it was very, very interesting that the girls would get confused about the route. So they start oh, that's a lot of blush. Okay, anyway. So the investigators start dissecting these statements a little bit more. And you know what they find out? They find out that these are really, really similar, actually. Their written statements are really, really similar. Like, almost too similar, as if they had been rehearsed. So red flags are popping up now. You know, the alarm bells, they're ringing. They're ringing. Sound the alarms, red flags. So investigators, they start looking for other clues, and that's when they go ahead and take a look at the digital clues. So this is when investigators discovered the tweet that Skylar had made that said, quote, "You doing shit like this makes me never want to trust you," end quote. Which, not a friendly quote. That's not what I tweet. Well, I don't have Twitter, but that's not what I post when I'm with my friends. Typically, I post first date kind of nervous because they think I'm so funny. But, because I am funny, that way. But yeah, so they see this tweet and they're like, it's a little suspicious. So they question Sheila about the tweet. They're like, what is this? Well, I'm sure they did it professionally. I'm just not professional like that. They said, what is this? But she claimed she had no idea what it was referring to. She was like, I don't know what that means. It was weird. You know, that's a little suspicious. I don't know. She could trust me. You know, I don't know really what she's talking about there. Friends later told police that there had been growing tension in the friend group, which we discussed, and that people kind of thought that it was falling apart a little bit. During their sophomore year of high school, Sheila and Rachel had grown impeccably closer, and the dynamic shifted from it being Sheila and Skylar as best friends to Sheila and Rachel being best friends. And this was much to Skylar's demise, because she was being left out of things because she wasn't the best friend anymore. So Sheila and Rachel would hang out together. They would go and smoke and go and party and go and do all this other stuff, and they would leave Skylar out, and this really, really upset our girl Skylar. But tweets are not concrete evidence, so once again, the leads went cold. After months of no major breakthroughs, police investigators obtained records belonging to Sheila and Rachel. So these were phone records. And what did they find in these records? The data revealed that both girls' phones had been in Blacksville, West Virginia at approximately 4 a.m., which is so interesting that they can, like, I mean, it makes sense because you ping off of cell towers, but it's so interesting that they can, like, see that information. Like, I don't know. It's very interesting to me that they can see that. And what's the science behind that? Someone smarter than me explain that, because I don't know, and I don't care to look it up. So somebody else who's a brainiac out there, because I know you guys are smart, let me know, how does that work? How does that work? How do, I know you're pinging off of it, but, like, how can they pick your cell phone out of all the cell phones? Like, how does that work? I don't know. I'm unsure. I'm really unsure, okay? I don't know. Someone smarter than me, explain it. This discovery, however, prompted investigators to take a look at gas station surveillance and traffic surveillance in general. They found at a Sheetz gas station, which was equipped with high-resolution cameras, authorities spotted a car matching Sheila Eddy's vehicle passing through around midnight, traveling in the direction of Blacksville. So this was when they said that they had dropped Skylar off, but obviously the home surveillance footage said that this was not true. So this was very odd that they were traveling to Blacksville in this footage. Very strange. And that the footage confirmed that the same car that had picked up Skylar earlier that night was the one driving past this gas station. Like, they confirmed it 110%. Matched completely. Huh. So, what's that about? Sheila? Rachel? What's this? You care to explain that? You know, you couldn't explain the tweet, but, what's this? Huh? What are you doing? Why are you going to Blacksville? At midnight? I mean, seems awfully strange. So, the investigation intensifies. And it intensifies in the sense of, like, they were getting somewhere. You know, they're tracking down the evidence. They're figuring it out. So, the authorities continue interviewing the teenagers, examining all the digital evidence that they could find, and also the camera footage from the traffic cams and all that. There was messages between Sheila and two brothers, Daleen and Derek Conway. Which, okay. Cool. And they were acquaintances who lived in the area and suggested the group may have been attempting to purchase drugs the night that Skylar disappeared. That was kind of what the messages sort of sounded like. I don't have the messages, so I don't know, but that's what police alleged. They were like, there's drugs. They're dealing drugs, which, I mean, shoot, maybe they were, I don't know. Wasn't there. Which, I don't know. Dylan and Derek dealing drugs? Ah, the D's. Dylan and Derek dealing drugs. Makes sense now. But investigators also obtained a search warrant for Rachel Schoeff's home, where they seized electronic devices and discovered her personal diary, which personally, I mean, I'm not under investigation for murder, but, like, someone pulling my journals out and reading them, I'd be like, can you not? Like, at that point, I would just confess. I don't care if I didn't do it. I'm confessing. Don't read my journals. What, don't read. Not that I have anything bad in there, but like, that feels like an invasion of my privacy. Like, you can search my home, whatever. You're not gonna find anything. But like, you're gonna read my journal? My secrets. Not that I have a lot of secrets, because I'm a terrible secret. I'm good at keeping other people's secrets, but not my own. But still, like, I don't know. That seems invasive to me. Despite being pretty much on the right path here, the girls stuck to their stories. And they stuck to their stories hard. So, despite this, police decided, you know what we're gonna do? You know what we're gonna do? Polygraph tests. Because that seems to be always what it comes down to. Which is so strange to me because they're not even admissible in court. So it's like, what is it even for? What are you even doing it for? But, you know, I'm not a police officer, and I suppose I don't know. And Sheila underwent a polygraph test administered by FBI examiner Rob Ambroschny. That's what I'm going with, Ambroschny. Tell me if I'm wrong. During questioning, she acknowledged that her and Rachel had picked up Skylar around 12:30 a.m., but denied withholding any information, sticking pretty much to her story that they dropped her back off and that she was seemingly fine. The results indicated deception, so her polygraph basically said, girl, you lying. And once again, they're not admissible in court, so I don't know how to feel about them, really. It's like 50-50. I'm like, oh, is it good? Is it bad? Is it in between? I don't really know. But it definitely wasn't good for Sheila. So they basically start questioning her and saying, like, oh, are you sure that's what the story you want to stick with? So this is where her story changes a little bit. And she says that after the girls stopped the car, Skylar got out following a disagreement. According to her account of things, Sheila's account of things, she said that Skylar wanted to go meet the Conway brothers to smoke and hang out, while Sheila and Rachel did not want to. So that's why Skylar had gotten out of the car and pretty much left. And that was the last time they had seen her. That was the story. That was the story. Which personally, I'm not letting my best friend of since I was 8 walk alone in the middle of the night to go meet a couple of boys and smoke dope. Not that any of my best friends would, but like, I wouldn't let them. Like, I don't know. That just seems a little suspicious, but I mean, I'm not her. So this was her story, and this is what she was sticking with, and she pretty much wasn't budging. She wasn't budging at all, which sort of it was disappointing for investigators, definitely, because they were hoping they would get some form of other information out of her and that this case could be solved and that they'd figure out where Skylar is and go pick her up. But Sheila wasn't breaking. She wasn't breaking. And this is when they turned their attention to Rachel Schoeff. So, roughly 3 months later, Rachel had a breakdown. Okay, she had refused to take in the polygraph. She had said she would take it, then she said she didn't want to take it. Then she said that she would take it. You know, she was really flip-flopping about what she wanted. And this made investigators, suspicious. And eventually she had a breakdown where she was actually hospitalized for like a mental crisis. And when she was let out, she agreed to talk to police and basically spilled the beans on the whole operation. She told them everything they could possibly want to know. And this was the break that investigators needed, because she told them January 3rd, 2013, that she had been present when Skylar had died, which not only gave the closure of Skylar officially being dead, but also gave the closure of knowing what happened to her. According to Rachel, the girls had stabbed poor Skylar over 50 times, and she said that Sheila had initiated the plan to kill Skylar, and that she went along with it. She said that they had planned to take her out into the woods and stab her and bury her. Once they had stepped out of the car and began walking, Rachel and Sheila told Skylar that they had forgotten their lighters in the car, so Skylar, being the good person that she was, went back in the car to get them for them. And this is when they, quote, counted to 3 and then began stabbing her. So this is where the tweet that Sheila left that says, "We really did go on 3, came to light." Sheila also had posted a tweet saying that, "I love you, Skylar, and I will miss you forever, more than you could ever know," after her death, knowing that she's the reason Skylar was no longer here. Rachel had told investigators that the only thing that Skylar said when being stabbed was why. She just kept asking over and over again, why? And Rachel also told investigators that they were unable to dig because the ground was too hard, so they buried her under leaves and sticks, which is disgusting. Rachel Schoaf decided to plead guilty to second-degree murder and was sentenced to 30 years in prison by Mongolia County Circuit Judge. She was eligible for parole after serving, I believe, like 10 years of that sentence. She has not been granted parole as of 2026, and she is up for parole again in 2027. She publicly apologized to the Neese family, so Dave and Mary, in court, stating that she was remorseful for her actions and that she doesn't expect forgiveness and that she is extremely, extremely sorry for their loss and that she was a part of it. Now, during a 2023 parole hearing, Rachel reflected on the events leading up to the murder, describing her relationship with Sheila as intense and unhealthy, and she also acknowledged fears about their secret romance being exposed. So that was what a lot of people thought that the motive was for this, is that a lot of people thought that Skylar had witnessed something going on with the two of them, and that's why they killed her, because the reason they gave as why they killed her in court was that they, quote, just didn't like her anymore. What do you mean? What does that even mean? I don't even understand. I'm sorry. You just don't like her anymore? Okay, stop being friends with her, you weirdos. Ugh. But a lot of people didn't like this response and were like, you don't kill somebody because you just don't like them anymore, which I agree with. And a lot of people speculated that Skylar had seen Sheila and Rachel possibly kissing or something more, possibly. And that's why they killed her. And Rachel did confirm this. And I will say, Rachel seemed genuinely remorseful. Sheila did not. Sheila was sentenced and pleaded guilty to first-degree murder, and the judge sentenced her to life in prison with possibility of parole after 15 years, which has not been granted yet. So, which is probably good, because Sheila seems crazy. Now, in this case, an Amber Alert was not issued for Skylar, and this was due to a myriad of reasons, but after this case, there was a law that was issued that basically changed the criteria for an Amber Alert and basically made it so authorities in West Virginia had to put on an Amber Alert within 24 hours of a child being reported missing, regardless of criteria. And this is called Skylar's Law, and it is very, very important because if there had been an Amber Alert, obviously it wouldn't have saved Skylar, but it could save so many others in situations like this, because the first 48 hours of a child going missing are the most important and the most, like, absolutely the most chance of finding this child. So they are very important. And so having the Amber Alert put out despite criteria is very, very important. So some good did come out of a terrible, tragic case. Now I'm going to do lips and lashes, and I will be right back to give you my final thoughts. And my final thoughts on this case is that it's absolutely terrifying that somebody you trust so deeply can just betray you like that. And like I said in the beginning, it's one of the ones that gives me chills because she truly trusted her best friends. And she loved them, and she'd known that girl since she was 8, and one day she's just decided to kill her, either because she just didn't like her anymore, or because she knew a secret that she shouldn't have, which, I don't know, either way is just bananas, and it terrifies me. I'm like, looking over my shoulder like, guys, if you don't like me anymore, please don't murder me, just tell me and I will leave. Peace out. I will not stay where I am not wanted. But yeah, it's just tragic. I am glad about Skylar's Law, though. That is a good part that came out of this case. And I hope that it helps other children who, you know, need an Amber Alert and who an Amber Alert can really, really help with, because I know there's a lot of cases like that. And I can only hope that I can only hope that the family is doing good and everyone who was affected is doing good, and that Sheila Eddy sits in jail. That's my personal opinion. She should sit there and she should think about what she did, because I don't think she should get parole. I don't think she should. Rachel, I think Rachel's workable. I don't think Sheila is. She sat in court, no remorse, smiled, just stone cold killer. And that was her best friend. And I think that's so messed up. And yeah, that's my final thoughts. Now over to outro me. And that is all I have for you on today's case. I hope you enjoyed it as much as you can enjoy a true crime video. And if you have any comments, concerns, or questions, please leave them in the comment section down below. I love to hear from you guys, as well as requests. If you have any requests for future cases, please leave them also in the comments down below. And don't forget, this is heavy topics, so please go do something that you enjoy. Go hug a family member, hug your dog, go for a walk, touch some grass, do something that makes you happy. And please take care of yourselves. And be kind, be safe, be smart, be yourself, and I will see you in the next one. And don't forget to like and subscribe. I love you. Bye-bye.